it's Niall from Alternative Review. Today, we're all about the tennis as we take a look at AO Tennis 2. As a huge Topspin and Virtua Tennis fan back in the day, it's been hard to go nearly 9 years without a quality tennis game on home consoles. I was always a much bigger Topspin fan because of the sim aspect and the fantastic career mode, but the arcade and streamlined nature of Virtua Tennis made it just as fun, especially in portable form on the PS Vita. The last console release for each title was back in 2011, with Topspin 4 releasing in March and Virtua Tennis 4 in April. Both games at the time were the best in their series yet, but you wouldn't have guessed they'd be the last. Fast forward to 2018, and just like the saying goes, we ate all this time for a tennis game and then two come along at once. Tennis World Tour and AO Tennis, or Australian Open Tennis International as it was also known, released within weeks of each other. Both games may have been tennis games on the surface, but both took a very different approach to the virtual version of the sport. AO went for a presentation-heavy approach with more personality in their game, whilst World Tour tried to bring in the hardcore sim players with a gameplay-focused approach at the sacrifice of the presentation and personality. The problem? Whilst focusing on gameplay, World Tour actually managed to have the worst gameplay of the two, so it sank almost immediately from release and didn't receive any post-release support of note to improve the experience. AO wasn't much better, with a slightly convoluted gameplay style that really had to grow on players, but the personality had people being more forgiving. Neither game did well with the critics, but AO's frequent updates and community content support meant there was much more longevity to the game. Both games scored low on Metacritic, the PS4 versions of World Tour scoring 45 on the critic score and 2.9 on the user score, and the same version of AO Tennis bagging a slightly better 50 in the critics, but a much better user score of 6.0, again this being down to the frequent updates and community content support. Fast forward another 20 months and in January 2020 we have the release of AO Tennis 2, a much more refined experience and the true product of a developer learning from mistakes and correcting the course for a sequel. The personality is still there, only now it's accompanied by both accessible and satisfying gameplay. I'll start off with the highest praise I feel I'm possible of giving. For me, this game beats Topspin 4 as the best tennis game ever. That's not to say it's some masterpiece of a game that deserves 10 out of 10s from critics, but as either a tennis sim or a light arcade experience, it captures the feel of the sport perfectly, and packages in enough features to ensure it's not just a one-trick pony. Let's start with gameplay. Whether you're someone who will play on rookie difficulty where it's impossible to hit the ball out of play and get that arcadey experience, or higher difficulties where all of your shots are sim-determined by a timed button press, the game is outright fun. If you use the training feature, which is super quick but teaches you everything you'll need to know to get started, you'll avoid the initial steep learning curve in the game. Because heading straight into career mode or tournament mode or online with an underleveled character and no real knowledge of how the game works, it's going to make things more difficult to start and could affect your enjoyment going forward. All that matters is that everything you see on screen whilst playing helps you understand exactly what shot you're trying to play and where it should go. You move, as usual, with the left analog stick, no surprises there, and as you approach the ball and select your shot using a face button, the left stick then becomes your aim, represented by a small ball in the opponent's side of the court. You then manage your button press, trying to get the shot indicator into bright green. Now this indicator is located just above your own player. Once in bright green, you know you've hit the perfect shot. Mess this up and hit a red shot, and who knows where the ball will end up. But there is a brief window between releasing your shot and you being locked out of aiming the ball. So what this means is if you know you're going to hit a red shot and you're aiming for the corner of the court, you have a split second to bring that ball into the safe zone so that you pretty much know you're not going to hit the ball out of play. Yes, it will make it a bit easier for your opponent to hit the ball back, but you're not giving up guaranteed points. Serving works in the same way, and the only real dynamism to the controls comes in the modifier. You can hold R2 to modify your shots. So circle is a topspin shot, R2 plus circle is an aggressive topspin shot. The same applies for flat shots on the X button too. But for square, which is slice, it turns the shot into a drop shot instead. There is no modifier for the triangle shot, which is normally a lob. Managing this in in-game situations is key, as these modified shots have a harder to hit sweet spot in the power indicator, but a much greater reward if you get them right. When it comes to overall presentation, AO Tennis, quite frankly, is just beautiful to look at. Having upped the effort in the graphical department and the feel of the game overall and the atmosphere, the pre-match intro is such a small feature to call out, but it adds that atmosphere to the game, gives it something that sometimes even the real game is missing. Something that has been lacking from many other games in the past has been that atmosphere aspect, almost like they want to be too realistic with, only getting crowd noisy kind of a few seconds in between shots and that's about it. But it's that overall build-up, the pre-match toying costs, all those sort of things, they just make the game so much better. In between points, you have the options to use a positive or negative response, which triggers some cool little animations, sure, but it also has a much bigger effect when it comes to career mode, where you'll be judged on your reactions on court and it can affect sponsorship opportunities, as well as determine which pros might be willing to play with you in doubles action. Another small little thing that I loved about the game, which is kind of part presentation and part gameplay, is of course the ability to challenge a decision using Hawkeye, another feature that's really been missing from other tennis games in the past. When it comes to career mode as a whole, it's fantastic. For what I'm assuming is a fairly small team at Big Ant Studios, they've done a fantastic job creating a worthwhile experience that is far from the usual single-minded approach of play tournaments, climb the rankings, be number one, and that's that. Given that's what we've seen in other tennis games, it's nice. It's a nice change, and this is kind of the biggest downfall of World Tour, was that it was all just play tournaments, beat the stars, get to number one. You can customize your player head to toe from appearance to gear, and even select multiple outfits to swap between in the character select screen. It all adds that personal touch that will get you more invested in the journey you're about to embark on. You get small cutscenes throughout your career, mainly talking to your coach about how things are going and what opportunities are available. And again, it's a small thing by itself, but all these little things add up to create the best tennis career mode I've ever played. You can also determine what kind of gameplay experience you want at the start too. If you don't want to be playing full-length games, best of 3 sets, 6 games to a set, then you don't have to. You can shorten it to games that are maybe 1 set best of 3. You can also set Grand Slams independently, so if you want to play really short tournaments but play Grand Slams as they're meant to be played, you can do that. Outside of career, you have standard online and play now modes, as well as a mode to play through the Australian Open, which is the only official Grand Slam in the game, in case you didn't guess from the name of the game. There's also a huge range of creation content, which is everything from creating players to creating venues and creating scenarios. So not only can you download some fantastic recreations of pro players missing from the game, you can also download brilliant venues to play in that better represent the Grand Slam courts and play some interesting scenarios created by the community. It all kind of makes up for the absence of any mini-game mode, which would have been nice. More on the scenarios feature, you effectively set up certain win conditions for a game, set exactly what the score is that the player will be entering at, and set the players involved. Again, just a nice little touch, and it's something that they didn't have to do, but they did, and it's a great feature to go in and have a look at what the community's done. In a rare adventure for me, I did try out the online mode, and in every game I played, it was very stable. Personally, I'm hooked up via Ethernet to 300 megabits connection, but even when the ping was a little high on the other side of with the other player heading into the game, I never had an issue. Custom games are the best way to play, but beware of people switching in their 99 overall created characters because it will just take away all the fun. As mentioned, the ability to download pro player community creations is nice because the list of pro players in the game is passable at best, and it's my biggest gripe with the game. The most notable pro stars in the game are Rafa Nadal, Nick Kyrgios, Stan Wawrinka, Gael Monfils, Ash Barty, Angelique Kerber, Joe Conter, and Karolina Pliskova. No Federer, Murray, Djokovic, Williams, Osaka, Medvedev, Thiem, Halep, or Kvitova. Bearing in mind all the aforementioned players except for Murray in the top 10 in their respective divisions. The community content creation is a nice alternative, but it isn't the real thing, and that's why overall it still gets a bit of a downvote from me. In closing, guys, if you were just as big a Topspin and Virtual Tennis fan as I was, this game is for you. A plethora of content to keep you playing in the long term, stable online if you want it, and a fun, challenging, and engaging career mode make this the best tennis game, for me, ever. The perfect mix of arcade accessibility and the learning curve of an in-depth sim, there's something for everyone. And if you want to know how to respond to criticism of your first title, this is it. Knock it out the park next time round. Thanks for watching, guys. Like and subscribe for more content like this, and remember to click the notification bell so you know when my next video is live. I never do full reviews of games, I don't have the time to, so it's always me playing anywhere between 5 and 10 hours of a game and giving those first impressions. Thanks for sticking with me, and I hope to have a new video out soon. See you on the flip side, folks.